A lot of white people don't like my comedy. A lot of white people say this to me. Hey, Amir. Hey. You get on stage. You make your jokes about white people. You say white people this.
Oh, this guy. Let's just say this guy super fucking racist. I guess this is what passes for woke comedy. We'll see.
I gotta pee. I'll be back.
People that. What if I did something like that? Huh?
Look, he said he's got to pee. He's gonna be right back. He's gonna miss the whole racism.
Do you want him to starve, Ed?
He's gonna miss the whole racism, though. I think I listened to part of this and I was like, oh wow, this is kind of weird. It's just so weird. It's like I imagine this guy being like Hitler's comedian coming up, just doing a bunch of Jew jokes for Hitler.
This is a stand-up comedian. I use comedian in the biggest finger air quotes ever, who's about to justify why it's okay to be racist to white people.
Okay. I feel
Let's hear it.
This is like a social experiment or something.
Yeah.
I'm ready. Hit me right in the white privilege.
I wish Hassan could be here to experience it as well. He's like taking off.
Got on stage and I said, yeah, black people are like this. Muslims are like that. You'd probably call me a racist, wouldn't you? And I say, yeah, I would. Yeah, you should never do that. That's bad for your health. They're like, well, you do that, Amir. You do that. You get on stage, you make your jokes about white people. Don't you think that's a kind of racism? Don't you think that's dun 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 reverse racism? I said, no, I don't think that's reverse racism. Not because I think reverse racism doesn't exist, right? If you ask some black and brown people, they'll tell you flat out, there is no such thing as reverse racism. I don't agree with that. I think there is such a thing as reverse racism. And I could be a reverse racist if I wanted to. All I would need would be a time machine, right? And what I'd do is I'd get in my time machine, I'd go back in time to before Europe colonized the world, right? And I'd convince the leaders of Africa, Asia, the Middle East, Central and South America to invade and colonize Europe, right? Just occupy them, steal their land and resources, set up some kind of like, I don't know, trans-Asian slave trade.
Just to check, this is comedy, right?
This is a comedian. He's telling a funny joke.
Okay, I just needed to check.
He's on stage telling jokes. Did you miss the jokes? The laugh part?
I couldn't. I got to be honest, I couldn't tell.
Oh, okay.
It is implied. So if we like break down the frame, right? You can kind of tell from like the backdrop and like the outfit and the fact that he has a microphone, you can sort of imply it. But from what he's saying, no, it's not clear.
Oh, I thought because the way he was dressed, I thought he was like a ventriloquist dummy that came to life and was just racist.
I mean, how
export white people to work on giant rice plantations in China. Just ruin Europe over the course of a couple of centuries so all their descendants would want to migrate out and live in the places where black and brown people come from. But of course, in that time, I'd make sure I set up systems that privilege black and brown people at every conceivable social, political, and economic opportunity. The white people would never have any hope of real self-determination. Just every couple of decades, make up some fake war as an excuse to go and bomb them back to the Stone Age and say it's for their own good because their culture's inferior, and then, just for kicks, subject white people to colored people's standards of beauty, so they end up hating the color of their own skin, eyes.
This guy, not only is he super racist, his view of the history is insane.
Yeah,
he's like, oh.
This is something that bothers me so much. The idea that like a black person in the US right now has no right to self-determination at all. Like I can get on board with the idea that there's systemic racism and there's problems and we need to change some shit, but it's still pretty fucking good comparatively to like any other point in time. Like the idea that things are so bad that it's just like, oh, well, you just have the boot on your neck and you can't help it. And it's just going to stay that way. Like, what the fuck, dude? Like, holy shit.
Yeah, you're right. Compare this to any other time, to any other country in the world. And we're like so much better place than we ever were. But no. Listen, even though this guy is a non-white guy who somehow, I guess, through sheer luck, because, you know, non-white people in America don't have the power to determine their own lives, through sheer luck, is on stage giving his terrible stand-up routine.
There you
go.
The thing that stands out for me is that it's completely unperceptible to any of these people how racist it is. And it completely reminds me of the situation, back in the 1950s, 60s, probably during slavery. Like they just didn't perceive their actions towards black people as racism. Like they were like, this is just the way the world is, right? He's basically laying out a narrative that's the exact same way. It's like, this is just truth.
I think I think with him, it's perceptible. I think that's why he's adopting the P plus P equals R framework.
Mm-hmm.
It's because he knows that this is bullshit. So he has to construct this nonsensical position in order to make it seem okay.
Do you think the people laughing realize how fucking racist this is?
No,
like
that they don't.
So
realize.
I had a particular experience that sort of really highlighted how fucking gross all of this shit is.
Mm-hmm.
So as you guys know, I used to write screenplays a lot, and there was a thread at one point on r/screenwriting, and basically the premise was my friend's daughter wants to be a screenwriter and she's 12, and it's like, how do I break the news that she won't be allowed because they're so sexist that she'll never be able to work in Hollywood? This was basically the premise of this thread.
Oh my God.
And then all of the replies were people basically saying, yeah, you're right.
Oh, that's so
there's no way. Yeah. And like, okay, here's the reality of the situation.
When was this? Because I'm curious.
This was like 7 years ago or something. Okay. This was a long time ago.
Okay.
Because like this shit hit back then,
7 years ago. Remember when women weren't allowed to vote 7 years ago?
Yeah. So
after Oscar's So White, man, they were fucking dying to get any woman in the director's chair, any fucking marginalized person.
So that's one angle. Like, because I listened to the Script Notes podcast like 6 months after that, and they were talking about how you literally couldn't get a staff writing job at TV shows as a white male because they just wouldn't hire you. 6 months later.
Yeah.
Because like the attempts to balance things out were such that like they were only hiring people that were marginalized.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So like that. So it's just absurd on its face. Then the idea that like, oh yeah, the most discriminatory place on earth, Hollywood. It's like Hollywood is the most egalitarian and like actively interested in diversity area, potentially literally in the entire world. Like if you were going to be anywhere and get an advantage from this instead of being disenfranchised, it would be there.
A lot of people's shit just sucks though, and they like want to tell themselves, "Oh, I'm being fucking discriminated against," because
that's exactly the problem. Is that people like here's the fucking hard truth. Okay, there's 300 million people in the U.S. Right? Probably about 2 million of them have tried to write a screenplay.
Totally.
Okay, about 10,000 people
live here.
yeah, about 10,000 people can write screenplays for a living. Okay. Yeah. And 50 of those people are good at it.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
And 2 of those people are great at it.
Yeah.
And almost everyone else is
and
fucking
none
terrible.
of them are women.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if you were to pursue this and fail, it's like the like logical reason is that like everyone fails. It's really hard.
Right.
Right. But there's this built-in thing. It's like, oh no, you failed because of your fucking whatever. And it's just, I'm just imagining a fucking 12-year-old girl that like wants to write screenplays and has like stars in her eyes, and her parents' neighbors coming over and being like, trying to break the news that we live in such a fucking discriminatory society that she can't do that shit. Like, it's so viscerally offensive to me that this would have taken place. And every single person in the thread was just telling them that they were right.
Yeah.
It's just, honestly, it's fucking gross.
It gives people an excuse not to try though. And that's really what I think they're tapping into. They're like, it's a lot of work to be successful at anything.
Yeah. And I had an ex-girlfriend that, she like later on, she was at a job or something and being disrespected. And she was like, it's so hard being a woman and being disrespected. And I was like, I've been working in corporate America for 10 years. Do you think people like automatically respect me? It's like people disrespect other people. People don't listen to you. I mean, that's just the world. Like, why do you think that, do you think I show up and I'd be like, oh, I'll have you guys know I am a white male, so please respect. Like, no, people don't give a fuck.
Totally.
Like, you get disrespect. Like, shit happens. The world kind of fucking sucks sometimes.
You have to earn respect, obviously.
Yeah, and like all of it just sort of gets baked into like, oh, well, it's because of your immutable characteristics, right? And it's just fucking gross. It's like that's what this fucking guy is getting at, right? It's like you have no right to self-determination in the US as a black person. Are you fucking insane? Like, yeah, what the fuck, dude?
Well, also he's putting together a narrative that pins this all on white people, which is just like, really? I mean, that's exactly what they did to the Jews. Exactly. Fucking, they blame the Jews for everything. Read the Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, man. It's fucking, it's just crazy, disgusting how close this is to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This guy's name is Aimer Rahman. I've never heard of him before. His comedy group is known as Fear of a Brown Planet.
Oh my God.
Really playing into it.
Yeah, really playing into it.
Let's continue. Hopefully we don't get that.
If after hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of that, I got on stage at a comedy show and said, hey, what's the deal with white people?
Notice I'm definitely gonna reread that book, that Thomas Sowell book, this week, because the narrative Thomas Sowell lays out is so antithetical to everything he's talking about. I mean, if the English in particular hadn't joined the fight against slavery, like, we might still have slavery today, dude. Like, let's be real here, okay? There are certain nations that stepped up and said, we're going to stop this, and some that didn't.
Why can't they dance? That would be reverse racism. Marvin, thank you. You've been great. Good night.
He's laying down this.
Look, Hassan just got back to Linda's brilliant commentary on this.
His he doesn't have any. He just moves on.
That was how he caps off a show. Wow.
Yeah, he caps off his show by saying, "Let me lay down the framework of why it's okay to be racist against certain groups of people."
Is this his like mic drop moment here?
That was the comedian's mic drop, not Hassan's.
Well, I mean, he's putting the clip on to say, "Look,
Right.
Let me get, you see slurs? Oh, you see slurs? You're responsible for all this."